Okay, so today we're going to talk about some surface pasting and finish up a couple things we didn't get to cover in the allotted time last week or 2 weeks ago. After we go through surface pasting, we're going to really talk about deed plots and start getting into parcels. And I have some really cool things with parcels I recently discovered I'd like to show to everybody today. So back into surface pasting. Again, that was on 2 weeks ago, that was on the agenda item, but we didn't get time to cover it, so let's do that now. Right before we do the surface pasting here, I do want to touch on a couple things, with the survey figures. So if you can remember, all the stuff that's drawn in automatically with Civil 3D now, with the survey field to finish, is a survey figure. So this is a survey figure, and you can validate that by, if you look in your AutoCAD properties dialog, and look at the top there, you can see the name of it, of the object, or the category of the object is a survey figure. So all this curb line and everything is a survey figure. When it comes from Land Desktop, just think of a survey figure as a 3D polyline. So now all our curb line and all our existing features are survey figures. So we got to keep that in mind with elevation. And how do we edit these? Well, if you look in the Prospector Civil 3D, there's this survey category down here. And if you expand that, you have the two different things, the survey networks, which we covered last week, and then the survey figures. So these are the survey figures that are in this drawing. And it's a little goofy with these survey figures, is that they're stored in the survey database and they're stored in this drawing, sort of like points. Like this point is in this drawing, but it's locked to the survey database, so I can't move it. See, I can't grip it to move it. I can rotate it, but I can't grip it to move it. And it's in the survey database, but also in this drawing active itself. They're sort of linked together. Well, survey figures are the same way. That connection, though, is not, you really don't need to worry about it as much or really need to know about it, but I do want to show it here because there could be things that I don't realize that it's useful for. So to get started here, I do want to check out this survey database. So I'm going to go down here to my Prospector, and under Projects, I'm going to find my survey database, right-click on it, hit Checkout, and then I can open my Survey tab and open up the database. And in here you can see our survey figures and our survey points. So these points are in the database and also in the drawing, and also our survey figures are in the database and also in the drawing. Now this one curb line here, if you can see, it's actually, the way it pulled across here, it's not exactly correct. We really want this bottom of curb line to tie into the bottom of sidewalk here. So what we're going to do to edit that, it's real simple. All you need to do is make sure that your Z-lock is turned off, which you can go into Options in AutoCAD. Go to Selection, or Drafting, and make sure to uncheck this Z-lock for current elevation, which always checks on every time you open a drawing. And then I can grab this survey figure, so you can see up top here, it's a survey figure, and just grip edit it and snap to the node at this point. Now when I did that, you saw the surface hopefully automatically update, because this survey figure is acting as two things. It's the visual line work for looking straight down on the page, your planometrics, but it also is the break line for this bottom of curb. Another thing you'll notice is under these survey figures in Prospector, so I'm in my Prospector window here, down under the survey group, and under figures, you'll see there's all kinds of, these are the different survey figures, like I said, and there's all kinds of little symbols in front here. And what do these mean? Well, the first little, I'm going to call these a hash. This first little hash here means that this survey figure is used by the surface. So when I look down through here, you can see the brush line survey figures are not a part of the surface because they were not tagged as break lines. Same here for my wood, my white stripe, single white stripe line in the roadway, landscaping, and so on and so forth. The next symbol you'll notice here is this little hash on the bottom side, and only this bottom of curb has it. Well, why does this have this little bottom hash mark here? Actually, if I let me just go back. And so I did an undo there to come back, and now you can see there's no the bottom hash marks. Well, as soon as I grab this again, I'm going to bring this down again while I have that prospector open. You can see that that little hash mark comes into play there. And why is that there? Well, these little symbols have a meaning. And to understand that meaning, you can go up to your communications center and type in modifier icons. And this will bring up help on that topic. It's a little quick search. Okay, it actually searches out in the internet as well. I'm going to go to the Prospector tab icons. Let's open up my other window here. And the reason, how did I even know to type in modifier icons, and we touched on this last time, is because I hovered over, these little symbols here look sort of like this icon up here at the top. If I turn that on and off, they disappear, so they have to deal with this toggle displays and drawing modifier icons, so modifier icons was a good search word. Bring up my help, you can see it here, and I'm going to hit on drawing item modifier icons. Well, these hash marks mean different things, and you can see them here. So this one right here means that the local copy has been edited as it relates to the project object. So basically that's saying, and it's confirming that, hey, I edited this survey figure. Now, it's not edited in the survey database. So, and I'm not saying that we necessarily need to send this back to update the survey database because it's just a piece of line work. But you can do that by right-clicking on that specific survey figure, and you can hit Update Survey Database from Drawing, or actually go the other way. You can actually have all their survey figures be reset to the day that they were brought in. So there might be further use for this from survey, but what I'm thinking at this point is that this might be a really good thing because all the edits to the survey figures, the line work of our existing conditions base files, we can always see what they were originally when they were brought in simply by figuring out which, if there's some questionable line work, and coming back, and I can actually come in here and say update from survey data, and we'll take the line work back to what it was when it was brought into the drawing. So keep that in mind. You can, if it is a solid change you do want to make, and you decide you want to update the survey database with it, you can update the database right here from the drawing just by right-clicking on it, or you could do it for all of them by right-clicking on the header column there. So any questions? I don't see any on the board in regard to that. If I don't see anything pop up, I'm just going to keep moving right along. So do keep that in mind. Again, tree lines and things of that nature, a lot of times they'll come in the wrong direction, and you can't use the AutoCAD commands. You have to use the feature line commands. So all these commands down here, the break, trim, join, reverse, we're going to be using those commands. If I hit reverse, I can select the feature line, or survey figure, sorry, and it reverses it simply by clicking on it. And I can set that back, just like that. Same thing with breaking. I get a lot of questions about how do I break this? Say I need to break this and put this on a demo layer in between these two edge of max shots. Well, if you go up and try to use your AutoCAD break commands, it's not going to work. If you click the break command and click this line and pick a point, nothing's going to happen. It doesn't do anything. What you do need to use is this break feature line tool. So we can go ahead and click that. And what's important about this tool is this is the normal break. Back in, people have been using AutoCAD for years. The initial break command, and it's still here in AutoCAD. Right here, you can see it. This is break. And a lot of people are used to now using this break at. Well, let's talk about the two differences between break and break at, just with the AutoCAD commands. If I have a line and I use the AutoCAD break command, and I pick here and then pick here, it's going to break and delete that segment in between. Okay. A lot of times we don't want that to happen, so people are used to using the break at command, which is a great tool. You click that, and you select the line, and then you just type, nearest or end snap or whatnot for exactly where you want that line to break, and it doesn't delete a gap in between. So keeping that in mind, this feature line tool, unfortunately, is only the break command, not break at. So you have to be cognizant of that, or you'll get line work. You'll have line work deleted, which you could always just not check back into Vault if you do make a mistake. You just undo checkout or undo, just right in the drawing. But to use this, we're going to use break. Going to click the line. You can see, hopefully it shows up on the notation software here. There's a little X right where I clicked. Well, if I click another spot on the screen, it's actually going to break that segment and delete it in between, and that's really not what I want. So I'm going to undo and get that back. What I really want to do is I need to use that break command, hit break, pick the line, and if you look down at your command prompt, there's a spot for where it says first point. Hit F for first, and then say I'm going to go to this edge of max shot and start my break there. So I'm going to snap to that. And then once you set that first point where you want that break to be, just hit enter. And now you can see that gives us a nice clean break right there, the first edge of max shot. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Go back to break, my feature line tools, click the line again, hit F for first, snap to my node, get my first marker right on the top of that node, hit enter. And it doesn't have to be a node, that could be an endpoint snap or any kind of snap. And now you can see that this segment is isolated in between there. So now I can just come up, use my HRG layer utilities. I'm going to use this move to demo layer. Click the move to demo layer, click that line, and hit enter. And that's going to move it to our 12ER DEM layer. Okay? So that's how you break objects with Civil 3D when they're survey figures. Okay, so let's talk about surface pasting here, and then we'll move right into these deep plots pretty quickly. And how I'm going to show this here is a quick little example on the side of on my screen here. So I have a couple surfaces here, and my first surface is called underscore grade. And really what it is I just have, just a constant slope coming down. I think at 5%. I can label it here real quick. So you can see that that's 5% coming down. I'll probably turn up my annotated scale here, show it a little larger. All right, and then I also have a pad. So let's turn this surface off. Turn my pad grading on, show you what that is. And this is just a pad. And what you're going to have is I projected that pad down to my my flat plane. So I took this flat pad and projected it down. Well, what you can do with Civil 3D is I can actually tie those two surfaces together in a third and final surface. So I can paste them together. I'm going to right-click on Surface tab or Surface category here and hit Create Surface. I'm going to call this Final. I'm going to set these to some reference, my reference style here. Hit OK. And I'm going to go back and turn, this pad off and also the graded flat plane off. Set those back to no display. And come down to my final surface, and in my Definitions tab, I'm going to right-click on Edits, hit Paste Surface. The first surface I'm going to paste into it is my grade. And you can see it shows up there. And then the second surface I'm going to paste into, I'm going to go back to Edits and hit Paste Surface again. I'm going to paste in my pad. And as you can see, what you get is one surface that has a combination of the two triangulations. So what's great about this is it's still all linked together. If I go ahead and grab this line on the pad and drag it back, it's going to update my pad surface. It's going to also, as you can see here, now it has a chevron because it's been updated. I'm going to hit Rebuild. Now, since that surface has been updated, now you don't see it because it's turned off, it would also update my final. So I'm going to right-click on that and hit Rebuild as well. And you can see it's all linked together real time. So it's not like a solid paste where it happens one time and then you have to repaste it again. It's sort of linking surfaces together in conjunction. If I set these to automatic rebuild, set everything to automatic rebuild. Of course, if I go and drag that pad around now, I get my autosave out of the way, everything updates automatically, downstream. Okay. So where does this come into practical use when we're doing survey files? Well, a lot of things that can happen a lot of times are that we will do a survey of an area for the main site, and then we might do a survey of an area off to the side, or do some supplemental survey along the edge of our existing survey. So I want you to think what you can do now is paste these surfaces together. So we have our existing grade surface, and I'm going to set my annotation style back to 20 here so my points come in nice and small. So my existing surface on the screen is the EG, and you can see the contours right here. And say I went out at a later date and I surveyed this small area over here near the river right here, and I want one surface that has both of these together. And you could do this in land. Not the same way, a different way, but you could still do it. But I don't want contours to show up in between. I don't want to survey this. Now, I don't want to have two separate surfaces either. I want to have one surface so it's simpler for the designers. So what I can do is I'm going to make an additional surface, and here's really where the power is, and I can make a surface, maybe call it underscore EG from, I don't know, 04, 14, 09. The date I went out and surveyed it. Okay. And then in that surface, I'm going to add in these points. I already made up a point group for it for the day I surveyed that, supplemental survey. And that little surface is going to be built over here. But now, I have two separate surfaces. I really want this surface to be a part of the overall EG, just so their designers don't have to keep pulling different profiles from sampling different surfaces and so on and so forth. All I need to do is just come down here to my edits, right click, hit paste surface, and I can paste my EG surface from 111409 into my overall EG. I can go back and turn off my EG from 111409, set that to no display. And you can see my larger surface for the project has this data available, a part of it. Where this also comes into play, the surface pasting, is if I go to my surface properties and I go to definition, this order is important. Okay? It's if you ever played spades or euchre, I say it's a lot like trump. You know, whatever is at the bottom trumps whatever is above it. And let me show you here that quick example. Let me refer back to this example over here. I'll make my final again. I should have deleted that, I guess. Paste those two surfaces in. Paste in my grade. And I'll paste in my pad. Okay. Now, why did the pad override the grade? How does it know? Well, if you go into this final surface and you hit on surface properties, this definitions tab, the operators, it's because it read the triangulation from the grade, built the contours from it, and then it went back and read the triangulation from the pad. So the order in which these are added is important. And you can also change the order. So I can come up here and move the pad above the grade, hit OK, hit rebuild, and you can notice my pad disappears. Well, because it builds the pad, and then the grade surface comes in and trumps it. So this is really, really useful when you have a survey of a certain area, and then the contractor builds a berm maybe right here. And you can see there's overlap. Well, you could make a surface for your new berm that you went out and surveyed on a later date and paste it into your overall, and it will trump the triangulation in there. But you still have both. So if you take out the paste, it will come back. If you change the order, it can, the existing grades can trump the pad if you'd like. But that, we've used it on a couple projects so far, and it's a new feature that we can really leverage to our advantage. So keep that in mind, this surface pasting. I do have a question here. Can you do multiple selections in the pasting? Yes, yeah. You could paste a whole bunch of things at once there. So he was, Dan was asking, Kenya, I think it was Dan. Yeah. When you're making this paste here, and I can delete them as well, come down. If I list them, if I click on my edits category here, and you can see my two pasted surfaces, if I just go ahead and click on each one and delete it. Okay. Now if I rebuild this surface, I'm going to set it to rebuild automatically. You can see it's going to disappear because there's no data in it. There's no data right here. I'm going to go into my edits, hit paste surface, and then I can pick grade and pad. And since I held down my control key, I don't know if you saw that part, but I had to hold down my control key there, and then I could pick multiple ones. And I'm assuming I've never really did that. I'm assuming because I picked grade first and pad second, that's the order it's going to show up in the dialog there. Just remember, you can always, if it gets in a different order than you want, you can go into surface properties, under definitions, and change the order in which they're in here. You can move stuff to the top or the bottom, so on and so forth. Okay? Any other questions on that? Another thing to keep in mind is as you add definition and elements to your surface, if I go back to this EG and hit surface properties, it looks at the points for the point group, it looks at the break lines for my survey figures, it looks at the break lines for my feature lines, it adds a boundary to that content, then it pastes in the surface. If I'd move the boundary to the bottom, depending on how I have my boundary, this will disappear. Well, why? Why would that disappear? Because my boundary for this surface is here. So it reads the triangulation from this surface I created over here, brings it in, but then it trims it out because my boundary's on this side. If I grab this boundary and slide it out, you'll see it start to reappear, but then, also I'm going to get the span in between here because these are points a part of this larger surface, as we did last time. So the order of, your boundary and whatnot is important. If you want a gap, you don't want it to triangulate in between, the space. If you have space in between your surface paste, you got to make sure your paste is below your boundary. Okay, keep that kind of stuff in mind. That's the little tricky things of Civil 3D we all have to pick up. Okay, no more questions. I'm going to move on here. And they're going to move on to doing deed plots. So deed plots, it's pretty much the same as it was in Land Desktop. Usually create a separate file. If you're in the survey service group, ask job number DP for deed plots. I have a file here. Check that out. I'm just going to go through, one or two quick things. Doing deed plots, I would not use Parcels right off the bat. Just use the line and curve commands. This is pretty much even in the same organization as how it was in Land Desktop. So if I want to do a bearing distance call out, I'm going to use line by bearing. One nice little thing you do get with Civil 3D is it has this little graphic that comes up. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, it does. So first I need to type in the quadrant. So I'm going to do a bearing of north 6935 east at 300 feet. So that would be, it's southeast. So it would be quadrant 2. And you can even see, you can see the tooltip on there where it shows me quadrant 1 northeast, quadrant 2 southeast, quadrant 3 southwest, so on and so forth. So quadrant 2 I can pick, or I could type in 2. Type in 69.35, so it would be your degrees, dot, minutes, and seconds, no decimal in between the minutes and seconds. So it would be 00 seconds. I could leave the 00 off as well. And then type in my distance of 300 feet. Okay. My next bearing is northeast, so that's up here. I'm just going to pick in that higher quadrant. I'm going to do 32.55. Again, I can leave off the seconds. And it's 62 feet here. My next bearing is southeast. This time I'm just going to hit 2, enter. That throws me in the southeast quadrant. And then 66.1500. That's 91 feet. And so on and so forth. So you can see I have seconds there. So it's 27 degrees, 23 minutes, 15 seconds. Okay? And then when you get to the end, either it's going to close or not close. I'm just going to type in one more here. 475, 200. You can hit C for close or just enter out to exit the command. Now, with this, these are a bunch of line segments. You can join them together if you want, or make a W block. A lot of times our deed mosaics or something, to this, it looks something like this. These are just line work together, or it's a block. What I like to do is I'm going to take this and put it on the correct layer first of all. Deed. And I'll hopefully make a block out of this, so I don't care if this line works joined together or not. I want to put some bearings and distances on this, so I'm just going to come into Civil 3D, General, Add Label, like always. You can label everything through General, Add Label. Change this to Line and Curve, Single Segment, Bearing over Distance Existing. And I have a curve option here. If I had any curves in here, I could use radius, length, bearing, distance existing. Hit add, just pick the lines. Okay? You can make a block out of this. Just type in block, deed 1, select the whole thing. Make sure allow exploding's on so you don't shortchange yourself there. And now this is one whole block. Okay? You can grab it, move it around. I can rotate it. Notice this bearing and distance here, 6935.00. Okay? So if I rotate it, which a lot of times in our mosaics we need to do, that bearing still holds. The deed bearing as called out until I explode the block. As soon as I explode that block, now this changes to the actual line bearing. So keep that in mind. But again, our deed mosaics, you know, in our boundary determination, we're just fitting the pieces together and then they come up with a final determination. So that would be our doing deed plots. Is there any questions on that? It's pretty much straightforward and same way it's been in land, except the only difference is you got to keep in mind if you explode this, if you rotate this deed and then explode it, these bearings and distances are going to change to the actual bearing of this line in the CAD file. You can edit this by, you can just come into your block editor. If you double click on the block, and you know, you can go into the block editor in AutoCAD and make edits that way instead of exploding it, and you can avoid all that. Okay? Do checkout on that. Don't see any questions. Close it. Okay, I'm back to my drawing here. Let me clean this up a little bit. I'm going to turn off my points. I'm going to go to point groups, properties. I'm going to take my no display point group all the way to the top. All my points turn off. And also turn off this surface boundary, or the surface, set that to no display. Don't see that anymore. And free some of this line work. That should be good. Okay, close, good enough. All right, so made our boundary determination, and what we have now is our two right-of-way lines, and then the deed. And, you know, somebody's determined where those exact corners need to be, and they gave me this information, and I'm just going to make some parcels out of this now. Well, one crucial thing to keep in mind when making parcels, you cannot have overlapping data. So where we have this deed line, we don't want to have the parcel overlapping it. That's how Land Desktop worked. That is not how Civil 3D works, though. And it's something, again, we covered in boot camp, but it's easy to forget. So this line, you know, this yellow line is right on top of that right-of-way line. So we don't actually need that. That's superfluous data. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to break that using the AutoCAD break command because that's just a polyline. And I'm going to break the other side. And get that out of there. So parcels are areas. I'm trying to get rid of that for now. Parcels are areas, not the line work. The parcel segments are the line work. So this parcel is this internal area here. How we're going to create this is just go up to, you know, your pull downs, go to parcels, and hit create parcels from objects. Okay. Before we do that, there's a little trick that I want to show everybody here for how do you make right-of-ways parcels. And it's a little different, but what we have to do is actually cap off this right-of-way at some point. Get rid of that. So I know the right-of-way extends further, but we have to cap it off. And we're gonna put these lines to a demo layer so they don't show up. But we do have to do that because if the the right-of-way area is the internal area, and so we have to have ends to it somewhere. So after I cap off my right-of-way, I'm going to come up to Parcels again and go to Create Parcels by Layout. Oh, I'm sorry. Flipped up there, getting ahead of myself. Create Parcels by Objects. And I'm going to pick the line work for the property, the right-of-way, and those two little end caps. Okay? I'm going to hit Enter. And I'm going to put those parcels, since they're existing conditions in my survey site, and I'm going to call those property existing. It's going to make both parcels at one time, so I can't tell it to make this one property existing and this one right-of-way existing. I'll just pick property existing for now. I'll have to come back and tell this one that it's right-of-way here in a second. And again, this style is for the area, not the line work. The line work just goes along for the ride here. And I'm going to label it with a no display area label. Hit OK. And you can see it turns all line work green. Okay. And now you'll have these very little dots here. These little red dots are actually the area marker. And when you select those, the whole parcel highlights. All right, so let's look at what we get here in Prospector. We go under Sites, we go under Survey, we go under Parcels. Now we have two parcels in this. And just to recover this from Civil 3D Bootcamp, if you right-click on Parcels and hit Show Preview, and then click, depress this little magnifying glass up at the top here, when you click on the parcel itself, you'll see a little preview in the preview pane. But you have to have both of those things in place. So this, you can see this HRG property exists too, what the computer named it, is actually the right-of-way. I'm going to right-click on that, hit Properties. I'm going to change this to right-of-way existing and hit OK. And now we have, showing a right-of-way line across the front of the property, which is what we want. But what are we going to do about these end segments? We can't just erase them now. If we do, this would cease to be a parcel, because all the water, in the analogy, the water would leak out of the parcel and it would cease to exist. The parcel must be closed. So what are we going to do? Well, we're just going to come up, use our HRG utility commands, layer utility commands, and select Move to Demo Layer. And pick those two end segments. Okay. Now if you highlight on those, you can see it just moved them onto a new layer, C3D Parcel Seg-DEM. Now I'm going to freeze that layer. And there you go. So now we get the look. We also get Civil 3D working for us here. Now why did I select the no display parcel marker? The no display parcel marker actually puts this little dot in here. And the reason I do that is because I want to label this actually with my labeling commands, not have the parcel show an area label there for me. We'll go into detail more on that a little later here. But to label this parcel now, I'm just going to go up to General, Add Label, switch this down to Parcel, change this down to Area, and I'm going to label this HRG Existing No Square Feet. Hit Add, and then I select that little no display marker. Okay, I'll switch this to right-of-way. In the new template, there's a right-of-way existing. A lot of times we wouldn't even label the right-of-way, but I'm going to do it just for this example. There's really no point to label the right-of-way. This square footage is really bogus, but I just wanted to show you that. And the reason we want to label it in this manner and actually have the parcel style labeled in as a as a label, not as a part of the parcel itself, is because when I select this label now, it's on this C3D parcel-area layer, where I could also have the area label show up through the parcel itself, but then it's not on separate layers. It makes things a little difficult when you get into XREFs. Okay, so where do I fill in this? You know, there's more information here to fill in. Well, it's actually a part of the parcel. So if I right-click on the parcel here in Prospector, hit Properties, and come over here to my user-defined properties, this is where I can put in the deed book and page number. So here I'm going to put in 1787, 89, sorry, 105, and I don't know if that's the right thing. Okay. And you can see the information fills out there on my parcel label. And if I had tax map information, I'd fill that out as well. Okay. Now, a question comes up, so that's pretty straightforward. And from this point forward, you know, you can just use your parcel label and your labeling commands here. Switch this from area to single segment, and label these with bearings and distances. I can actually do them all at once. So I can do bearing and distance existing. Actually change this to multiple segments. Bearing and distance existing. Click Add. Click the No Display marker, which this thing in the way now. Hold on a second. And this style, I see I need to adjust this style. And I'll just do it real quick. I might have done that in the template already. But apologize for this here in just a second. Adjust this style so it's correct. There we go. All right, multiple, hit Add. I want to, so I pick the parcel marker itself, and then I'm going to hit clockwise. Parcel, multiple segments, bearing and distance, Add, pick the marker, CL for clockwise, and all the bearings and distances go on. That was painful. From here, you can flip these labels, reverse them, and so on and so forth, okay? But a big question comes in, and this is the thing I recently learned, is what happens if you have a tract where some of the parcels on the right side of the road and some of the parcels on the left side of the road. So say I have a parcel, this way, and this is actually Z'd into another lot on the other side of the street, right? So this area here needs to be both of these lots together. 4 weeks ago, I probably would have told you can't do that, but I watched an Autodesk webcast, and here's how you do it. You go to Parcels. I'm going to go hit Create Parcel from Object, right? Just click the line work to make an enclosed area. So since it's going to add these as parcel segments, and we talked about this in boot camp, and this is a parcel segment that forms an enclosed area, which will create a parcel. Okay. Property existing. Set this to No Display, which will give me the little marker inside. Okay. And to make this, you know, you can see this area didn't change at all. It's still 2.54, so keep that number in mind. To actually add these together to be one parcel, you just go up to Parcels again, hit Edit Parcels, Edit Parcel Segments, and really what you want to get up here is this dialog box, this little toolbar, and right here, Parcel Union. Click that. Destination parcel is going to be the one on the right side of the road, and the parcels I want to add to it is going to be the one on the left. And I could do as many as I want. I could have another one up here. I could have 5 or 6. I could have parcels over here. As soon as I hit enter, you can see the area just jumped up. Now this area is the combination of these two parcels. You can see the marker on this side even went away. So when I click this red parcel marker, hit X for exit the command, this toolbar will go away. When I click this parcel marker here, both sides highlight. So parcel union is the big pull away from that. So I need to make some changes, and I don't want those to be union together anymore. I go up to parcels, edit parcel segments. Click one of the segments, brings this dialog up again. Dissolve parcel union. I'd select the parcel itself, and now they're back. So there are two different parcels here. Okay? And I might have to re-add the area label. This is no big deal. Area label. Square foot. Add. I can pick this label again. And you'll say, well, why did this all disappear? Well, you're making big changes here to these two parcels. You unioned them together, and then you just, took them back apart. Well, it's going to clear the data because if you're making those kind of changes in your parcels, that kind of information, it's going to remake those parcels into two different. So how does it know if that bearing and deed information was with this or with this one? It doesn't keep track of that. So you'd have to re-enter that back in. So any questions on that? Yes, you can add as many area labels as you want. The question was, can you add multiple area labels? Yeah, I can add an area label, have it up here. I can come down, add another one, have that over here. And, as I make changes to this, they'll both update. So if I come into these parcels here, I might need to hit save. My parcels show up down here. Properties, I'm going to go in and maybe fill in some of this information again. You can see they both filled in. Okay? Yeah, so you can have as many as you want, have these on different layers, so on and so forth. Okay, so we showed right-of-ways, we showed deed plots, we showed right-of-ways, how you do that. Talk about display order. So this could, in my drawing, it magically worked out. But how does it know, it's an area thing. To the computer, there's this parcel, which is the area itself. Then there's a parcel side of it, which is this other area. And then there's a third one over here to the left. And these two parcels have this common line in between. So how does it know whether to paint that line red or green? Well, if you right-click on parcels, hit properties, you can see there's a display order right here. So if I move existing parcel or existing property to the top, you can see instead of green, they'd be red, or red, they'd be green. So that display order is controlled, again, through right-clicking on parcels, the category itself, not the individual parcel pieces. Hit properties, and then here's your display order. Move one to the top or the bottom. Okay. Covered union of parcels, display order, dissolve, and let's talk about editing here real quick. So this edit parcel segments dialog. If I go to parcels, pull down again, hit edit parcels, and I click this edit parcel segments. That dialog. And then you have to click any parcel segment. This is where you can add line work. So say if I wanted to add a line or a curve, there's a lot more things you can do through here. We'll talk about this more. We have a parcel subdivision coming up, but I'm limited on time here. So I'm going to hit add fixed line, and I can actually draw a line in between this segment here, and it'll split that into two parcels. Okay. So you can use that to split things apart and add them together. so on and so forth, to your advantage to what you need to get done there. Another way to do that is also you could just simply draw a polyline across the parcel segment or across in between the area, go up to Parcels, create parcel from object, and pick that one single line. Hit OK, and that will split this into two as well. Okay. One thing I'm going to leave here with is that parcels, anything in Civil 3D, and I can't explain this enough, anything in Civil 3D can be labeled through the XREF. So I'm going to save this drawing here. I'm going to delete these area labels, these area labels I have. And I think it's more important that we start labeling stuff through the XREF than it was before in Land Desktop. The reason we didn't label through the XREF in Land is because, if I update something, I'll have to update so much text and so on and so forth. But that ceases to be important with Civil 3D because your labeling through the XREF is labeling the model itself. So I'm going to make a new drawing here real quick with a minute to spare. Save it. I'm going to XREF in the base file that has the parcels in it. Zoom to it. Notice I don't have any labeling. I deleted all the labeling from that base file. Well, if I wanted to go ahead and label the areas in this drawing, let's go to General, Add Label, change this to Parcel, Area, set this to, maybe we're going to call this a Commercial, Proposed, I don't know. It's a nice big label. Pick that little marker. You can see now why I have the little circle for the no display. So I have something to pick when I'm going through the XREF. Hit Enter, and I can label that. This specific label style pulls out the parcel name. So if I switch back to my base file, so now I'm back in the base file again, and I change the name of this parcel itself, so I'm going to uncheck the name from template and call this Sheets Lot. Do a QSave. Switch back to my XREF. You can see my label changes. All the bearings and distances, single segments, or I can actually do the whole thing, multiple segments. Bearing and distance existing, add. Pick the segment marker. Clockwise, this is through the XREF, everybody. Labeled all the bearings and distances in this drawing. It's in this specific file, but if I go ahead and move, say this property line becomes adjusted for some reason, and it would never get adjusted that much, but it gets adjusted by a tenth, just enough that you don't even notice it, right? The survey saves that base file, and you already labeled everything in your existing conditions plan sheet. You can move things where you needed them to be and everything. It all looks pretty. Well, as soon as you check out your file again, it's going to automatically update. So labeling through the XREF is clutch. Even this area, I don't know if you caught that, this area updated. So use that to your advantage. You can label areas as many times as you want. You can add another label here, area. You can go up to parcel no square feet, hit add. Even that, remember we filled out the deed information? Again, this style I have to adjust. But this deed information, that comes through as well. Okay? Well, we're out of time, 2 minutes over. I have one last question here. Can a parcels overlap, i.e., when a property line is to the center of the road, so the road, no, they cannot overlap. What you'd have there is if you do have a property like this, hold on, where, there we go. You're saying you have a property where the line work actually extends to here, something like that-ish, right? Get rid of this Z. What you'd actually need to do in that situation is, if I go to parcel, create by object, all right, I'm going to add that those parcel segments in, change this to property existing, right? That's part of the existing property. No display, add. That would actually have to be a parcel itself. Then you could union these together, so you'd get a gross area. Or you could just show this with line work as well. You don't need this to be a parcel, right? You're usually going to dedicate this. If you are dedicating it, you might need it to. You might want it to be a parcel, so you can get this area for dedication. And in that situation where you're going to dedicate, you'd want the net area here as well. So you wouldn't union these two together. There's nothing wrong, though, with just leaving these as lines. This is line work, right? Still line work. I did an undo. I can also just go to lines and curves, single segment, bearing over distance existing, add, and I can label bearings and distances on just simple line work. Erase that one up here. I'll save this drawing. I can even label bearings and distances on line work through the XREF. So switch over to my XREF, my brand new drawing here. That line work should show up. It does. Change this to lines and curves. Bearing over distance existing, add. Pick that piece of line. Labels it. Still dynamic. So if I go ahead and move that that line work, okay, save it, flip back over, have it read, update the XREF, my bearings and distances change even for line work. So hopefully that answers your question. No, they can overlap. Make sure you do not have overlapping line work. But there is some ways you can think differently about doing it to make that work for your situation. The hardest thing you'd have is I don't know how I would get these lines to be green if I would make this into a parcel. They would have to be red. Actually, you could get them to be green by making up a third style. So you'd have property existing, property in right-of-way, and then right-of-way, and then you'd set property in right-of-way above right-of-way, and then property existing below that, and maybe that could turn these green. That would be it'd be a layer game for coloring. That would be my thing there. So, okay, any other questions? I don't see anybody coming up with anything. Thanks, everybody. Sorry I did go over a little bit here, and next thing will be, I believe, road rehab. So hopefully, this was informative. Thanks.